Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to an It's Almost Too Late episode of The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. And here's your host, Alan Mosley.
Guys, welcome back to the show. I am your host, Alan Mosley, and as always, you can follow us on social media, which is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Look,
so you're a little behind.
Look.
I wish I could just stop that thing halfway.
And then there's Twitter,
Twitter
at Alan M. Mosley.
Yeah, you had to practice that a while.
I have to do the bouncing ball myself. The Gold Standard Podcast. And it's patreon.com/TGS. Imagine someone who's only listening to the show like, what are they doing? What are they doing? It's because we got our little
scrolly bar thingy there, yes.
I meant to mention
Lower
this.
thirds.
I meant to mention this to you before the show. Yeah, you can
stop
get that away.
All right, go away.
I meant to mention to you this before the show.
Okay.
So we've got the whole new branding coming up.
Sure, yeah.
And we're changing the program. It's going to have a new name, new branding, new format, all sorts of cool stuff. It's going to be really more entertainment focused.
Yeah.
Because I got to tell you, some people have asked me, so Alan, I'm cool with whatever it is you're doing, but why the change?
Yeah.
Honestly, dude, I'm just tired.
Yeah, so something new,
I'm just worn out of all of the outrage and it gets. I mean, we're still going to talk about stuff that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
But we're going to mix it in with some more lighthearted entertainment.
Yeah.
Because man, I'm just you can't get burnout, you know?
No, you can't just be mad all the time, and it just makes you hair recede and all this horrible stuff.
So the reason I mentioned that is twofold. So first, for the viewer at home, we're actually going to, we did this on social media already, but we're actually going to debut the new logo and new name at the end of this broadcast for the new show that will be, I guess, technically the second week of January is when that'll come out. And the second thing, and this is more for producer Blake than it is anybody. Oh boy. We know what we need to do is we need to write our own intro music. Like we need to instead of, because you know how you and I have been talking about, like, we need to find some new music, we need to have like some jingles and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, this is Osborne Studio.
Yeah, I mean, we got a studio full of junk back there, but hey, this place is pretty cool. We can make music, stuff like that. I think it's a great idea.
Well, my favorite was always Craig Ferguson. Yeah. And he did all of his own stuff. Like, he produced and wrote basically all of his own little jingles and little like, clips and videos.
Yeah, we can do this.
And he did his own intro music too. Yeah. And so I was like, we have to actually write our intro theme.
Or, just get a bunch of instruments and make noise and keep what we like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when episode 100 gets here, we'll have an actual band to do that for us, and we'll just steal theirs.
Yeah, we'll just rip that and just
we're going to rip theirs off.
Totally
for sure.
That. You
but until then, we should. Well, what we could do is we could write our own theme, and then we could give it to them. They'll learn it, and then they'll play our theme live.
See, now you're onto something.
Yeah.
You're onto something there.
That's
Very smart.
Exactly.
I like it.
So, as we always do, we're going to talk about a few of our friends at the top of the show. We're going to start off with Liberty Memes, and Liberty Memes has today, ladies and gentlemen, listen to this. That 70s show debuted in 1998. Get ready for your existential crisis, by the way. Trigger warning. That 70s show debuted in 1998 and was set in 1976. If the same show came out today in 2019 with the same premise, that show would be set in 1997.
Gosh. You know how old that makes me feel? I am the oldest man on earth right now. Thank you. I needed that.
I actually saw that this morning, and I reposted it, and sure enough, like there's a whole bunch of cry reacts, and people posting like how unsettled they are this morning by that.
I feel like people really haven't changed since 1998. People were different in 76. I get that. But, I mean, 98, we're
97.
97 is the same. Music sucks now, but, I mean,
music sucked then.
Well, it kind of did.
See, I don't agree with that premise. I think people have changed a lot in that period of time.
I think,
and especially a teenager, because they were teenagers, right?
Yeah.
A teenager in 1997 is different than a teenager in 2019.
Oh, I agree with that. I agree.
But to me, that's not the point of the meme at all. The point of the meme is that when you watch that 70s show, like, I mean, you can catch reruns right now. If you're watching that 70s show, you're thinking of, this is a show that is satirizing the bygone era of the 70s. Who says the bygone era of 1997? Who says that?
That 90s show. I don't know. I don't think that would fly.
The bygone,
a lot of chokers.
In my mind, the bygone era of 1997 was like last week.
Yeah.
You know?
It just doesn't seem like that long ago.
Right now, I know what we're going to get in chat right now is okay boomer. That's what that's what's coming next.
Oh, it's already there.
If that's what you're saying, screw you guys.
Yeah, I know, right?
So thank you to Liberty Memes. I also want to mention really quick, by the way, we shared a lot of the funny stuff from Liberty Memes, but I think the last time I read from Dadmin, admin of Liberty Memes, admin 2, who's been a guest on this program, by the way, I think they've raised something like $250,000 or something this year over the course of the year for all the different
see, we should just do memes.
And Patreons and all that stuff.
Those guys are great.
And I know that they've been taking some gripe from people who are saying, basically, this is a meme page. I don't come here for all this other crap. And the response I have to those people, and David is more than welcome to use this anytime he wants, is imagine having so much free time on your hands that you scroll through the interwebs looking for things you don't like to let them know.
Yeah. Wow.
Like, there's a person right here doing a thing I don't approve of. Let me pop in real quick. They're over here doing, this is what me and Sherry like to do on our keyboard. Yeah. That's like, I'm too busy to find all the people who say and do things I don't approve of and tell them.
Yeah, who's got that kind of time?
I'm too
busy making everyone mad.
These people do. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So anyway, just big shout out to those guys. Also, there's our friends at The Other 3%, which you can find on Facebook at The Other 3%. Afghanistan papers proving we were lied into $1 trillion 18-year war. Nothing. Impeachment.
Thousands of microphones.
Impeachment.
Yes. I still think that she should be the cat. From the cat memes that have been so popular.
You're a little obsessed with that cat meme.
That cat rules, dude. That cat is the best.
This is the third or fourth week that whatever meme we shared, your answer was, this would have been better if it was the cat meme.
Yeah. That cat meme is just completely
something about you and the cat and Greta Thunberg.
I like cats. Oh,
it's like it never ends with you. I'm just saying. So anyway, at The Other 3% on Facebook. And also, we're not going to talk about impeachment and Trump and all that. I'm really not. That is, I know that's big in the news, and I can for anyone who's listening to my voice right now, I can promise you that is something we're not going to talk about on this program. I don't care.
No.
What's funny is that the people who are anti-impeachment or just generally anti-left, anti-Democrat, I like to get their blood pressure up by telling them I'm totally for impeachment because I want to impeach every president ever. I want to impeach every president, every congressman, every senator, every judge.
Just start
I'm
over
all
Blake
for
Slate.
it.
Nope, none at all.
If you can impeach them, I say get her done.
Get 'em done.
I'm for it. So that makes them mad. And then on the other hand, I'm like, but at the same time, the people who want him impeached most vigorously are themselves the dregs of society and the worst cream that rises to the top in politics. The Nancy Pelosi's of the world who are leading the charge. They're some of the worst people who have ever lived.
Yep.
So they should impeach them too.
Yeah. Impeach them all.
They should just all resign today.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yep. I agree. It'd be
I'm
a
glad
better
you
place.
do. This is why, by the way, if anyone at home is wondering, who's that guy that just agrees with everything Alan's saying?
That's what he pays me to do, just agree with him.
I
might not necessarily agree with you all the time, but I'll just go, yeah, sure, yep.
I like how you cut me off right there, because what I was actually going to say is that he always agrees with me until he doesn't. and then we get into a fight and I yell at you.
Yeah.
I think that's the only reason people tune in.
Yeah, they only just want to see you beat me down, right? Like,
that's
why you're not allowed to have a steak or a fish over there. I'd be in a lot of trouble. He's over there, by the way. That's why when I look over there, you throw it at me. Steak, fish. Come on, you ever heard the old term "get slapped up by a wet fish"? See how I did there?
Okay,
I did it again.
I
did it again. It's a Blakeism. It's amazing.
Guys, forgive Blake. He doesn't know what he's saying.
Yes, I do.
It's dementia. He can't.
I don't have dementia.
So finally, last one is our friends over at the Status Quo podcast, which is thestatusquo.net. So I've got a post from them. They're shaking things up at the Status Quo. So Matt, who's the main showrunner over there at the Status Quo, they made an announcement. They're getting ready to do a whole bunch of new content. Cool. They're going to be talking about medical awareness. They're going to be talking about survival preparedness. They're going to be, talking about first aid. How to take care of yourself in emergency situations. Right. He's
all that stuff you need in the Boogaloo.
He has I know, but by the way, we don't discuss the Boogaloo. I actually have a huge anti-Boogaloo rant that we're not doing today.
Don't do that
today.
On
a different episode. But he actually has a really well thought out and written post about experiences in his life that have shaped him. Mm-hmm. For better or worse, into where he is today, and how he wants to, instead of being beaten down by setbacks or disappointments, that he's going to take those experiences and he's going to transform them into learning experiences. And I'm all for that.
Yeah,
I'm all for the people that are producing content to show people ways to learn things and to make their lives better, as opposed to just harumph, be angry all the time like that. That's why we're changing the show. It's because that gets old, man.
Yeah,
it really does.
It does.
So, I see that you have the. I see that you actually.
I can't
have
wait
it
to pull
up.
this trigger.
So I feel like I should say something like, who's one of your favorite bands?
One of my favorite bands, U2.
U2?
U2's one of my favorite bands.
U2 sucks.
Oh, come on.
Wrong. I only have that, by the way.
I like the delay. It just kind of slowly brings that in. Here it is again. Watch.
Okay. I know, it's like, you know how it's there's no audio, but you feel like you can hear it.
Oh yeah, it's great.
I know that there's got to be there's like a medical, like a psychological term for that, where it's not sound, but
pseudo-acoustic phenomenon.
What? All right, guys, we're going to be right back after this commercial break. Hey, did you see the playoff games last weekend?
Oh, you're into the sports ball game.
Sports Ball with Mike Meharry and Alan Mosley. SportsBallPodcast.com.
Sports ball is not a libertarian sports show. It's a sports show done by a couple of libertarians.
For when you need your bread and circuses.
Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com. Guys, welcome back to the show. Our guest today is making his second appearance. He is a famous Twitch streamer and the 2014 author of Compact of the Republic. And he is, by the way, the gold standard constitutional scholar. It's Dave Benner. Dave, welcome back to the show.
Greetings. Thanks for having me. Thanks for all those accolades, too. It's kind of odd.
Well, wait, hold on. It's kind
of odd combination of distinctions, I would say.
No, you're a Renaissance man. You know, you there's lots of different things that pique your interest. It's kind of like a Thomas Jefferson,
Oh, exactly like
that. I tell people all the time, when I think Thomas Jefferson, I think Dave Benner. You don't believe me, do you?
I got nothing.
Okay. So, Dave, I asked you on the show today because for people who are not following Dave on Facebook, you should be doing so. Because would you say it's about every day or every other day make a post like a this day in history?
Yeah, I have this day in history post for about 2/3 of the days of the year, so it's not every day, but I do post them very routinely.
Now, the one you did just recently was about the Bill of Rights, because I guess believe it or not, I'd actually never heard of Bill of Rights Day. It's one of those things where there's a day for everything on the calendar, but it's not like it's Christmas. It's not like it's super observed. But it was Bill of Rights Day, so you had a post about the Bill of Rights. So I want to start there with kind of everyone knows what the Bill of Rights is, as per what you're taught in public schools. First 10 amendments of the Constitution. It's people think of it as like your civil liberties stuff, right? Everybody knows freedom of speech, right to bear arms. People don't really talk about the troops being quartered in your home anymore, but it's still in there. But I think people get that part of it. But I think it's probably pretty fair to say that most people really don't have any idea about how the Bill of Rights really came to be, and how actually that was a big point of contention when the Constitution was being ratified.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it was probably the biggest point of contention. You had anti-federalists, or those who opposed the constitutional plan, saying that, well, this government, if adopted and ratified, would go beyond the bounds that are enumerated within the document. So you had prominent people like Patrick Henry in Virginia, Luther Martin in Maryland, Melancton Smith in New York, saying that without a Bill of Rights, I mean, we can't agree to any new form of government. And really, that became a anti-federalist rallying cry, so much so that it was pretty much written into many of the ratification ordinances that essentially that in the case of Massachusetts, for instance, our adoption of the Constitution is contingent upon the idea that the first Congress is going to entertain the addition of a Bill of Rights. Mm-hmm. So.
Now, I think that the sort of mainstream take on the Bill of Rights is that they wouldn't really understand why anyone would argue for not wanting it included, because they feel like so what you're saying is we don't need those things. Oh, well, we don't need freedom of speech. We don't need a right to bear arms. Like they would only, if you say, hey, let's not have the Bill of Rights, their immediate assumption is that you don't believe in those rights. So where are people wrong on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting question, and it's rarely posed, actually, that I think a plausible argument exists for it being omitted. And this is what the Federalists said. Mm-hmm. You had people like Alexander Hamilton and Roger Sherman and James Madison, even, who eventually became kind of famous for getting the Bill of Rights kind of adopted. Those three Federalists and more said essentially that to add a Bill of Rights would be superfluous and absurd, because what you'd be doing is you'd be adding stipulation to powers that aren't even granted in the Constitution. Because if you remember from the ratification campaign, the whole point of the Constitution and the way it was intended to be read was an array of enumerated powers, whereupon the residual powers that were not enumerated or listed would be retained by the states and the people. So what they said is that why are we going beyond what we intended to be the orientation of how to interpret this document? Why would we specify things that the general government doesn't have the power to do anyway?
So I'm actually going to take a step backwards here, and I don't mean to trip you up on this, because I didn't actually discuss this with you before the show. So backing up a little bit to the Articles of Confederation, is there anything in the Articles of Confederation that is comparable to the same concept or controversy of a Bill of Rights, or how rights are interpreted?
Not exactly. Just like the federal Constitution, the Articles of Confederation also was, being the first U.S. Constitution, a document that only articulated the powers that Congress had. And by the way, at that point, there was no judiciary on a federal level. There was no federal executive. There wasn't even a law enforcement apparatus. So it may be to many of your crowd's liking. But no, it didn't have a Bill of Rights, and these things were not considered until the second constitutional framework.
So I'm trying to set the scene for folks at home to realize what the discussion is at the time, as opposed to what the discussion, because we'll get at the end of this talk, you and I will get to what does the discussion mean for us today in 2019. But for the discussion at the time, so this is what you're saying is, I mean, this is really kind of exploring new territory or legalese in the Republic.
Indeed, to an extent. I mean, Bill of Rights had been known about for hundreds of years. England passed its Bill of Rights in the wake of the Glorious Revolution of 1688 and 1689 that listed several things that the king was prevented from doing. For instance, the king at that point, James II, disarmed or tried to disarm all the Protestants in the country. So there was a Bill of Rights that included a stipulation that the king couldn't do that. So this was a familiar tradition in the Whig history of liberty, and some of the states already had their own bills of rights at this point. So sometimes people say, the Bill of Rights, and they always mean the federal Bill of Rights. Yeah. So all the states more or less have a Bill of Rights, and many of them at that time had one.
Now that actually brings me to my next question, or my next point is, so obviously when people say the Bill of Rights, or if they say the Constitution, they're not, you and I are both in Tennessee now, they're not talking about the Tennessee State Constitution. They're talking about the U.S. Constitution. But,
that's right.
But again, setting the framework to, late 18th century, early 19th century, of course, I mean, and still technically today, I mean, all the states have state constitutions. So where's the disconnect then? Where is the break between, well, we have state constitutions, and the state constitutions can enumerate certain rights, can talk about things within the, for instance, the state of Tennessee. So where's the disconnect then between the individual states and their constitutions versus the ratification of this U.S. Constitution, and how those two interact?
Well, I guess the distinction would be that people refer to their rights in a positive sense based upon the number of the applicable federal Bill of Rights. For instance, the First Amendment of the Constitution prevents the establishment of religion, but that really isn't a positive right. I mean, you have free exercise, but really what that amendment's saying is that the government can't transgress upon that pre-existing right that had been acknowledged beyond. It didn't originate in the Bill of Rights. But as far as the disconnect between the state Bill of Rights and federal Bill of Rights, I just think people are generally unfamiliar about their own state constitutions and Bill of Rights, so as to, have this, education system that thrusts down the federal variety in every instance, I guess.
Yeah. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is the 14th Amendment and incorporation. But before we get to there, so just so that people can really understand the difference between, what is thought to be in American history, this is the way government functions versus this is how things are interpreted after. So pre-14th Amendment, pre-incorporation. Would you say that it's accurate to say that American and the general public just generally understood that the U.S. Constitution was talking about federal government and that they needed to refer to their state constitution to talk about what would be going on, for instance, in the state of Tennessee? Would you say that would generally be considered to be mainstream thought in 1803?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, when it came to the doctrine of incorporation, which we might explore later, no one had even really made a prominent legal argument that that wasn't the case until the case of Barron versus Baltimore, which was many decades after ratification. So, I mean, really before that, people understood the Union as a federal apparatus whereupon most of the powers and policy making was done at a state level.
Well, I think it's really important. The reason why I'm really trying to draw a distinction is I think it's important for people to understand that some topics that you and I could discuss that would be considered fringe or radical or just generally not mainstream today, during this time in the years or just handful of decades after ratification, not only would this have not been weird or controversial, I mean, that would have just been considered mainstream thought, and no one would have thought you were strange or crazy to believe what we just said.
Indeed. I mean, people put a lot of junctures in U.S. history at which point that may have changed. But yeah, I totally agree with you. Some people will say the culmination of the Civil War or, the culmination of World War I. But yeah, at that point, absolutely, that was generally understood.
Okay, so now we're going to fast forward to the 14th Amendment. Now, you're the constitutional scholar, so I'm going to leave this up to you because, of course, I don't have it pulled up on my desktop. So tell us what the 14th Amendment actually says, and then we'll get into what it has meant after the fact.
Okay, so there's many aspects of the 14th Amendment, which we actually even discussed prior to this show. But the key aspect that we'll be talking about today is the Incorporation Doctrine, and that's really a legal doctrine that has been kind of morphed out of the original purpose of the 14th Amendment. So what I'll talk about is the original purpose of it relates to what we're going to talk about. And that's that in the wake of the Civil War, the federal government was worried that if the Democrats took power again, essentially what might happen is you could have legislation on a state level that would deprive the recently freed men, the blacks that had been set free, from obtaining basic rights. Some of those rights are things like serving on a jury, attesting to your own behalf in a criminal trial, signing contracts, some of the things that we would consider, almost minutia compared to, some of the time-honored traditional rights like freedom of speech, religion, etc. So what they did was they crafted an amendment that would disallow the states from interfering in those most basic of rights. And if you want to know exactly what those rights are, they didn't make it a secret. There's what's called the Civil Rights Act of 1866 that verbally articulated all of them in a list. And what some of the key proponents of the 14th Amendment said about the amendment is it's essentially synonymous with this bill, with this 1866 civil rights legislation that articulates that these people within the states have to retain all of these rights, and they can't be abridged by the state governments.
Now, again, if I'm playing devil's advocate and I'm just the mainstream person on the sidewalk in 2019, I would say, I don't see the problem yet. Like you haven't said anything to me yet that rings any bells of, this is going to change America for the worse. Our liberties are going to be restrained. This is the end of the republic as we know it. Everything you said sounds perfectly normal to me, that the Civil War was just fought. Slaves were freed. We don't want to backslide into tyranny. This is now the free new America as we know it. And so we're just codifying into law all these specific things. And the fact that you even use the terminology that they actually specifically outline, I mean, generally in legal terms, that's a good thing, right? You're not leaving open anything to interpretation. And yet somehow I have a feeling you're going to tell me that the 14th Amendment has since been interpreted to mean more things than what you just said.
Yeah, absolutely. And just as you said, I would have no problem with the 14th Amendment had it retained its original legal purpose and interpretation. Mm-hmm. But what's happened since is more than 50 years after that amendment was ratified by the requisite amount of states, if you take that position. By the way, I won't get on a tangent, but many scholars claim that the 14th Amendment was not properly ratified for a variety of reasons. Yes. But let's set that aside right now. Mm-hmm. But after 50 years of its supposed ratification, suddenly the federal judiciary claimed for itself the power to basically intervene in the powers of the states by saying that amendments 1 through 8 were incorporated as limitations to the state governments as well as the federal government. So what they said is those first 8 amendments that are in the Bill of Rights, now by virtue of the 14th Amendment, are limitations on the state governments as well. And that really kind of started in this 1925 case of Gitlow versus New York. And we don't have to go into the specifics of that, but it was 55 years after the amendment was ratified. And there's nothing to suggest within the ratification notes from those congressional debates or the state debates to suggest that those who ratified the amendment wanted it to have that purpose or that purpose was understood.
Yeah. Now, fast forwarding a little bit to, okay, so what does that mean for us today? Because at the end of the day, I know that you being a historical scholar, you'd say, well, look, we have the documents. We can read the letters. We can look at ratifying conventions. We can have a really good idea of what drafters, what ratifiers believed when they were ratifying the Constitution, when certain amendments were drafted. So how does the 14th Amendment and how has its reinterpretation led to potential abuses now?
Well, what it's generally ended up doing is elevating federal judges to such a high and powerful position such that judges in the federal level, their individual opinions essentially affect policy on a very local level, on levels that the founders never intended the federal judiciary even to be able to touch. For instance, people have argued in prominent legal cases and in Supreme Court opinions that, for instance, the due process clause of the Fifth Amendment prevents California, say, from being able to reform its own welfare system, because to do that, you would abridge someone's due process rights. It's taken the First Amendment and said that a particular community in Pennsylvania, this is Allegheny County, cannot have a nativity scene, whereas they can have a Star of David in the same public area. It's just allowed these people to insert random views into the meddlings of localities that were never intended.
Yeah. Now this touches a little bit on some of the material that our mutual friend Suzanne Sherman and I have talked about recently, which is in talking about a republic, talking about federalism, and then talking about something like the incorporation of the 14th Amendment. It seems to me that on the one hand, if something is taken to a federal level and a federal judge rules in a way that you are in favor of, then it's hard to make a case that you disagree with it on the basis of, well, they ruled the way I want, so I shouldn't complain, but how they went about doing it worries me that the next ruling might not be in my favor. I mean, can you see how that's a hard sell for someone on the street?
Absolutely, especially in the age of partisan politics in which we live, where everything is polarized and everyone roots for a team, it seems. I mean, not me and you, but it seems like the majority of people do that. And yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I root for the Cowboys and they suck. So that's all I got going.
They can still win their division, though.
This is true. See, I was watching the time, and I figure when we get down to the final 2 minutes, I've got a little rapid fire for you, and then we're going to have a little bit of fun question, and then I'm going to get you out on a really important one. So we're going to go ahead and start the rapid fire. So, Number 1, will the Cowboys make the playoffs?
They should. The division is weak enough that they should do it. I would say yes.
I'm going to go with yes. I'm not going to go with should, because that just... Should doesn't work. All right. Question number 2. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being extremely and 1 being not at all, how stoked are you for Diablo 4?
I'm about 9 right now, man. Everything I've seen seems to be kind of a throwback to Diablo 2 elements that just it just seems awesome. I can't wait for it. What they put out about the info on it and how dark it is, it really actually entices me. I can't wait to play it.
Question 3. Was the 14th Amendment ratified?
In my estimation, no, and I'll cite the best work to defend this point is Forrest McDonald's famous article, Was the 14th Amendment Properly Ratified? I think no, and the general answer comes down to the fact that there were several states that either rescinded their original ratification, and I think a prevalent argument could exist to say, well, it doesn't matter if a state rescinds its original approval, it's approved at that extent. But also some states messed with seating of delegates and seating of representatives that if they had not done so, those delegates may have voted against its ratification and things like that were either quasi-constitutional or outright unconstitutional. But I think Forrest McDonald lays all that out very well there.
Question 4. Where can people go to get more information on Dave Benner and read Compact of the Republic?
www.davebenner.com. It's DAVEBENNER, davebenner.com. Click on the middle link to see my books. Both the one that I've written on the 14th Amendment and Compact of the Republic are there for you. You can also check out my YouTube page from there and my podcast, both of which have lots of history content. I hope everyone enjoys it.
Question 5. Will you be making a live studio appearance at episode 100?
I will be there, and I won't even be traveling to Vegas to disrupt that this time.
All right. We're going to get you out of here on this one. We're right at 20 minutes.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Is a Pop-Tart a ravioli?
No, because the way I define ravioli is something that has a pasta outside shell. Thus, because the material that a Pop-Tart is made of would not be construed as pasta, I do not think it meets the proper qualifications.
But they're both made of dough.
They are, but I think that the dough and pasta is distinct in that it is less coarse. It is usually boiled in water or baked. And the Pop-Tart crust, I'm really stretching here. I got nothing.
I thought you were a real libertarian, but now we know the truth. Dave, thanks so much, man. It was fun. We're gonna see you here at episode 100. So this isn't really goodbye. It's really more of a may God have mercy on your soul.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Alan.
Thanks, Dave. Guys, we will be right back after this break.
Have you ever been talking politics with a friend and told, if you don't like it here, you should just move to Somalia?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, from the sandy beaches of Mogadishu, Sherry and I bring you Postcards from Somalia, one of the newer products of Little L Productions, where we take on all of the fallacies of the people who say, if you don't like it, you can just get out. Your ad could be playing right now, reaching thousands of potential customers. Sadly, it's not, but it could be. Find out how to be an advertised sponsor for The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. Email us at tgsalanmosley@gmail.com.
There we go.
How about that Dave Benner?
Yeah. Dude, smart guy, man.
I know.
Sharp as a tack.
I said this at the beginning of the interview. So Dave Benner is now the official constitutional scholar of the gold standard.
Yeah.
Which is really sad because the gold standard is not going to be the gold standard anymore.
Yeah. Only for like another week, you know.
Yeah, but
what a title.
But for the next like week and a half, he's the official.
He's the man.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
That, my biggest takeaway from that whole conversation, and we were talking about Incorporation Doctrine and the Bill of Rights and all that, is that I can understand how a layman on the street would be like, I don't really get it. Like, I don't really get how, you had mentioned earlier talking about the state of Virginia and all these gun laws they had passed.
Yeah.
And you could say that, well, if the state of Virginia passes a bunch of retarded gun laws, and then someone sues the state of Virginia, and it goes to a federal court, and the federal court rules against Virginia based on the Second Amendment,
right?
Which the Second Amendment doesn't apply to the state of Virginia, it applies to the federal government.
Right.
But those people would get those gun laws overturned, and you could see how a layman would say, but this is a good thing, right? Like, we didn't like the law, and we got rid of it. But I think what you really have to impress upon people is, but when you do things that way, you have put all of your eggs in the Fed basket.
That's right.
And now you're giving them all the authority to decide the winners and losers.
Right.
And I don't think you want that.
No, you don't want that.
I don't think you
know
want
what?
that.
We should ask Trump what he feels about that.
Trump, what do you think about my views on incorporation? Wrong. Yeah, well, I was about look, I caught myself. I was just about to call him a DS, a de-esser.
Okay.
And I stopped myself, which means
he needs a de-esser.
Remember, everybody, check out Suzanne Sermon's The Watch Ass Report on Cerberus Radio Network, which also syndicates the Gold Standard with Alan Mosley.
That's right.
Very thankful to them
yes.
helping support the show and get the message out there. So that's Suzanne Sherman, SuzanneCSherman.com, Suzanne Sherman's The Wasatch Report, Cerberus Radio Network. Yep. We always have to remember to mention that when I almost have an uh-oh.
Yep. Uh-oh. Yeah.
An uh-oh, that's right.
I'm going to get you a beep button.
Okay.
I'm going to get a bleeper.
You got to remember these things when we're not recording.
Yeah.
Because I've had a million, we've been biting around a bajillion ideas of all these.
We're just going to write these down.
When the new show comes out after January 1st, we're going to be making all these changes to the set and to just cool. the graphics and the bells and whistles. Yeah. We do need a beeper.
We need a beeper.
I need a button
that goes
so,
beep.
So speaking of that, we'll go ahead and do that really quick. Okay. So we debuted this on social media. We're going to go ahead and show it on the program.
Yay.
Guys, that is the new logo.
Yep.
The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley is going to be no more. But it's still us. I mean, it's literally going to be us the very next week.
We're just going to be nicer.
It's going to be It's Too Late with Alan Mosley. Right. And that's no, bring it back. It's Too Late with Alan Mosley. There's the logo.
That's okay.
Okay, so by the time we get the show ready, we're gonna fire Blake and find a producer who doesn't strobe effect the frickin' you guys are looking at me through camera 2 right now.
Yeah, that's camera.
I'm looking over there off screen at
He's
Blake.
Always looking at
me.
Guys,
this is what Blake's doing right now. He's going That's what Blake what's going on.
No.
So there was I wanted to do a couple of little Hollywood bits before we close the show.
Sounds
today.
good to me.
Did you know that we just passed the 30th anniversary of The Simpsons?
Oh man, more pointing out how old we are. Look at that.
30th. Look at that.
Great though.
So I'm going to ask you. Leave that up here. I'm going to ask you a couple of quick questions.
Okay.
Number
Hopefully
one,
I can answer them.
Who is your favorite character on The Simpsons?
Oh, Homer. Come on.
See, I think that's an easy answer.
Well, I mean, dude, the whole donuts thing, I love it. The whole use of working a freaking nuclear factory. So, I don't know. You know, he's tied with Mr. Burns, though. I do like Mr. Burns. Mr. Burns is definitely the greatest crotchety old man that ever lived.
I'm a groundskeeper Willie.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, yeah.
Like,
you know what? Because that dude's a bad effort. You know what I mean?
I like groundskeeper.
He saved the day just to quite a few many times. He rips his shirt off and he's like all muscles. And stuff.
Question. Last one.
Okay.
What is your favorite episode of The Simpsons?
Oh.
I know it's hard. Just whatever the first one that pops into your head.
The one that jumps out in my mind is a Halloween episode from many years ago where Bart's head gets cut off and lands in a bucket, and he sees himself from the bottom of the bucket looking up. Remember that one?
So it's one of the Treehouse of Horror.
It's one of the Treehouse of Horrors one. I think it was the very first one. That's the one that really sticks out in my mind. Yeah.
See, so people in chat, share with us your favorite Simpsons character and what your favorite episode is. I got to tell you that I'm happy to mention that it's the 30th anniversary of The Simpsons, but I was looking at a bunch of different, I was trying to jog my memory, and I was looking at a bunch of people's lists of their top 10 or top whatever favorite Simpsons.
Yeah.
And every single list would have the episode and the original air date.
Wow.
And I couldn't help but notice, basically 9 out of 10 episodes of everyone's favorite top 10 list, every episode took place from 1997 or before.
Interesting.
Because, The Simpsons is total trash now. It's been trash for...
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that you know how you kind of have rosy-colored glasses for some things? And you have fond memories of The Simpsons, and so you don't realize that not only... most people would agree The Simpsons is nowhere near as good as it used to be back in the day, but it hasn't been that good for dang near 20 years.
Yeah, and I have to be honest with you, I'm still a Family Guy fan, way over The Simpsons.
I don't the classic Simpsons... A classic Simpsons was way better.
Well, the classic Simpsons was way better. I have to agree with that.
The Simpsons seasons 2 through 8 are just some of the freaking best, man.
Totally. Have you seen The Mandalorian?
I haven't seen The Mandalorian yet. So I'll tell you one thing we're never going to do on this show.
Okay.
We're never going to show spoilers.
No.
We're definitely not going to show any spoilers. Whoa! What was that?
I'm sorry.
Wait, well, go back. Whoa! Get that out of there. So we're definitely not going to show any spoilers of any Star Wars related content.
No.
We definitely
no spoilers.
We've got some sort of weird mixed feed right now with the show.
What's happening? Oh no,
no, you can actually pull that one up.
Okay, I can pull that one up. Oh.
This is. Whoa. I was looking at some of the advanced reviews of Rise of First of all, by the way, the reviews are terrible.
Why?
They're saying it's a god-awful
I'm excited
movie.
about seeing the movie.
These are people that are actually paid to review it and make Disney look good, and they're saying that the movie's terrible.
And he says it's so bad I walked out of the bootleg. Jeez. That's cold, bro.
I think I asked you this before on the show.
Yeah.
Have you ever walked out of a movie?
Yes.
What one? What movie?
Oh, man, I can't remember. I've walked out of a couple of really terribly bad, horror movies.
You paid hard money to see a movie and you got up and left.
Oh, man.
Can you remember?
Dude, it's been so long. Dude, it's been at least 25 years since I walked out of a movie.
I've walked out of 2 movies in my life.
Really?
And I can tell you one of them for sure. Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
I never went. I didn't see that in the theater, so I would have walked out of that.
I went to that movie when I think I was in high school, and a bunch of friends wanted to go to the movies, and there was nothing on, and that was on. So they just said, well, because it's not that we're going to see a movie, it's just we're going to the movies.
Yeah.
So it's we're going to pick the movie basically when we're walking in. And the group decided, well, we can't decide, let's go see this.
Yeah.
And we got up and left about a half hour in. The whole group. Our whole group. Enough of us went together that we're taking up a row of seats, and a row of seats get up and leave the theater.
Yeah.
Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
I wonder what people's top number one walked out of the theater movies are. That'd be fun to see online. People would say that.
When we switch over to It's Too Late, we should get back to doing some movie and show and music reviews and stuff.
That's what I'm saying.
Let's review Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. No, let's do it. Let's do it for real.
If we can get away with that, YouTube will let us.
Well, we'll do a mix. We'll review new things coming out, but we'll also review totally random off the wall old things.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I'm just saying we should review Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
I agree.
So guys in the chat, if you think that me and Blake should do a movie review of the movie Charlie's Angels Full Throttle.
That means I have to watch it, doesn't it?
That was Drew Barrymore and Lucy Liu.
I know.
And I love Lucy Liu, but
was that the first Charlie's Angels one that they did?
Of that series, I think it was the second.
Yeah, see, I only saw the first one that she did with Lucy Liu and Drew Barrymore.
Well, that's how it goes. Is that they did one and it was bad.
It was bad,
but it was just the one. Yeah. And then someone decided that was so bad we should do it again.
Gosh.
And they made Full Throttle. Yeah. Ugh. I'm just saying we should do that.
Yeah.
I bet Trump loves Charlie's Angels. Full Throttle.
Yeah, he's all about it, man. Check him out.
Wrong. Guys, thank you so much for listening to another episode of The Gold Standard with Alan Mosley. You can catch us on social media, which is facebook.com/TGS Alan Mosley. Twitter is @AlanMMosley, but you don't have to do any of that. You just go to our website. Look, it's right there.
Yeah, it's right there.
It's thegoldstandardpodcast.com.
That's right.
Consider supporting the show at our Patreon.
Please do.
Which is Patreon. Yeah, please do. Because it's Christmas and I got to buy stuff. Patreon.com/TGS Alan Mosley. And we will see you next week.